Since it was released back in 2019, I heard that The Outer Worlds was a great open world space mystery about a solar system trapped in an endless loop. Being praised by its fun mechanics and interesting story, but I also heard that it was made by a couple of guys who created Fallout. Now, I don't want to be a dick, but this looks nothing like Fallout. This looks way more cartoony and blocky with way less detail. Where are the companions, the load of weapons, the factions, the monster-like enemies that I heard about? Whoever called this a Fallout New Vegas spiritual successor is a moron. I'm sorry. What? What do you mean, wilds? Are you telling me that I'm looking at the other space game from 2019 with Outer also in the title? Dyslexia strikes again. Let me try this again. The Outer Worlds. It was received very well back in 2019. Praised for being a good Fallout New Vegas spiritual successor while creating its own identity. The use of the Unreal Engine being praised for making exploration and combat feel even better than it did in the Fallout games. Its comedic tone and writing style is admired for having a funny and an effective critique of corporate culture. Now, the flip side of that is that I also read some comments and reviews saying that this game did not actually hold up well all these years later, with lackluster gameplay and criticism for the decision making not being tough enough. And that does sound like a pretty mixed bag of reviews. Since I've made it clear that I barely even know what game we're talking about, it's obvious that I have not experienced this game for myself. But I think it's time we do so. Sidebar, if you think I should give The Outer Wilds a try, let me know down in the comments. So, to see if this game is worth playing today, let's take a look at The Outer Worlds. In The Outer Worlds, you play as a passenger who's revived by this wacko scientist Phineas Wells. Halcyon is ruled by these mega corporations that together are called the Board, who want to capture Dr. Wells because they have labeled him a psychopath who is experimenting on the colonists. So it's up to you to help Dr. Wells, clearing his name and saving the colony. Or not. There's actually a ton of freedom in this game. It's designed perfectly for you to be the goodest of boys, or the biggest asshole the galaxy has ever seen, and anything in between. You start by creating your character in a pretty hefty character creation station. There's enough to it to let your creativity flow. I am lacking any sort of talent or creative vision, so I just made myself. So if you've been watching me for a while and you ever wonder what I look like, it's this. Exactly this. That's me. Big ol' me. Of course, this being a first-person shooter RPG, you get skill points to assign as you please. You get to pick a backstory that provides a boost to a stat that has to do with the career aptitude that you end up selecting. Of course, me playing this for the first time, I had no clue what any of this meant or even what to lean towards. I think I ended up choosing my background to be like a chef or something, so I was good with hand weapons, which ended up meaning absolutely nothing because I slowly started to focus on being a smooth talking computer hacking doctor. And with this build, I was allowed to be able to talk myself into and out of any situation, hack into anything, and heal anyone. So because of that, combat wasn't really my first choice when it comes into conflict. I suffer from a chronic case of Captain Save-A-Ho. I really have to focus on trying to be the bad guy when that's an option. Like if I'm doing a bad guy playthrough, yeah, but my initial instinct is to always be the hero and try to save everybody. Does this mean I'm 100% super goody two shoes? No, sure, especially in games like this, I'll steal things, I'll kill a bad guy here and there if I think it's for the good of everyone. And like I said, this game is a perfect playground to let you play as you please. You want to save everyone? Go ahead and try. You want to kill everyone and everything? Go ahead, you can. In the Outer Worlds, there are a ton of factions that you can do missions for and can either build good or bad reputation. That does not really come into play until the end of the game, but it also dictates how members of the factions will deal with you. If you run into somebody that you have good reputation with, maybe an interaction that could be potentially quite hairy will come off a bit smoothly, depending on your reputation, or it could also be an on-site situation. NPC interactions and the reputation system really fuels this game to make it feel like a living, breathing world, especially because what you do and your decisions carry so much weight and can affect the future. The planets on Halcyon aren't super huge, gigantor, massive planets, but they are compacted with enough enemies, missions, and places to explore and items to find. I really enjoyed the themes in the Outer Worlds. The aesthetic of the game is really cool. The retrofuturistic style I found to be very charming. I even love the artwork in the loading screens. I don't know, what would you call it? Art Deco, kind of like Bioshock like art style. I don't know, I really enjoy it. The environments are also really colorful, and the Unreal Engine character model I find to be way better looking than the past Fallout engines. I do not like the Fallout graphics. NPCs to me look like they're wearing masks of themselves. I really enjoyed the music of the Outer Worlds as well. It's very spacey. No, not like that. Not Kevin Spacey. Space-like, but it also has great range. There's some music with a bit of a spooky twang to it. There's some serious music and some with the perfect amount of cheese, similar to like an early morning space cartoon. The leveling up sound effect being my absolute favorite. It just sounds so epic. Missions will have you running around Halcyon, collecting, finding, investigating, rescuing, killing, turning on, turning off, destroying, saving, recovering, and all the type of missions you can find in your typical first-person RPG can be found here. The missions themselves aren't super captivating, like what you have to do isn't super intricate, but the consequences and the aftermath of the decisions you have to make are what make the missions feel very important. Even little things, like if you run into an NPC who's trying to talk to you and you accidentally shoot him in the face, that feels like that could have a massive consequence moving forward. As a freelancer, you'll be completing missions for different factions, and most of the times you'll find yourself in the middle of two ideologies. You can fully side with the lesser of two evils, or be a complete asshole and just ruin everything. But the game will also give you a possible third option if you look for it that will feel like it solves the problem a bit more amicably. Not all the conclusions feel super satisfying, others are definitely more fulfilling, mainly because the choice is tougher, and others are just super drastic. For example, maybe this guy doesn't want to step down, so you're kind of forced to just shoot him in the face.
Here they come! We are victorious.
Either way, you must proceed with the consequences of your decisions, even when you fail or botch a mission, which I luckily never did, so I actually don't know what happens if you fail. Your character stats really dictates what you can and cannot do. Even if you have the best intentions, but say you don't have enough persuasive points, you actually can't convince the characters to do anything. Because my dialogue level was decent, I could actually talk my way through certain scenarios, but this also meant that I had less pew-pew scenarios. But I think at the end of the day, I felt a bit prideful for taking that route. You know, I felt cool talking my way out of those situations. But because I had a talk first, shoot later approach, this also meant that there was a lot of talking in the game. Luckily, you can get as much info as you want about what's going on as you like. You just want the basics, select that and move on. Want more intel on who, what, where, why, and where? Ask away. The characters are interesting enough that you will want to keep them talking. The writing is actually pretty witty and the voice acting is also pretty good, making it easier to listen to them talk. When you're done blabbering and it's time for the shooting, this is also very fun as well. It's an RPG, so it's not realistic and it has the chipping away at health thing that all these RPG has. You know, you shoot at them and numbers pop up. But even yet, the shooting still feels satisfying enough. As a side effect from being revived, you have the ability to slow down time with the tactical time dilation, which gives you the chance to be more precise with your attacks and can even deal specific damage to enemies. You want to blind them or see their weaknesses, press the button and slow down time. This also could just be a me thing, but I rarely use this thing. I immediately forgot it was even a thing. Maybe I felt the game to be a little bit too easy to the point where I didn't even need to use that. I like it, it's cool, it's an interesting idea, I just simply did not use it. Maybe that's a testament to how fun the gameplay is, because I just didn't feel the need to have any extra type of abilities there. I mean, the guns feel fine, they're very smooth and responsive. There is quite a lot of feedback for each individual type of gun, and it's very fun to shoot around and kill things. But when it comes to the guns, I just simply wasn't in love with any weapon. There are a few missions where you get cool science weapons, shrink rays, mind control guns, but even those, right, none of them really stood out for me. If I have to pick one, I would probably pick your regular schmegular machine gun because of all the damage it deals. But again, not a single weapon gave me that I have to have it feel. I completely stood away from the handed weapons, even though I picked myself to be a chef, so I had that boost. I mean, they are cool, the swords, the hammers, the knives, and all the different types of them, but it's just that that type of combat really isn't fun for me. I prefer shooting. There's armor and headgear that you can equip as well, but the design of it I found to be pretty basic. It's like, why did I spend all this time making my guy if I'm just going to slap a helmet on him? And at the end of the day, all the armor looks very NPC-ish. It doesn't feel original at all. There is this one shop where you can get top hats and monocles and that kind of stuff, but it just doesn't feel like enough. They definitely could have gone harder in this customization department. You can upgrade and add mods to the different weapons and armor, but you just don't feel the upgrades as much, of course, unless it's a scope. But outside of that, the mods don't really drastically change the weapon. Maybe they'll add a new effect or something, you know, give like shock damage or corrosive damage, but I didn't feel the upgrades as much as you would probably in other games. So I felt like this needed a bit more work, as well as like give us just more customization options, you know, give us the ability to pimp out the guns. That would have been great. Something else I completely ignored were the consumables. These are food items, creams or injections, just items that you find laying around all over the place that I literally spent hours picking up, that if you use them provide a certain boost to stats or different abilities or stuff like that for a short period of time. So what would happen is that I would usually walk into a room, literally pick up all the crap, and then just carrying it around, literally forget to use them. Again, maybe the game is too easy, so it doesn't really put you in any situations where you're like, oh shit, I'm about to die, I better use my cream. Sometimes I would be in the menu and see the little icon and be like, oh shit, that's right, the thingies. And ultimately creating a cocktail of drugs and food and juice myself to the gills like a baseball player from the 90s.
You essentially strengthen your body and your performance with a cocktail of steroids and growth hormones.
Yes.
There's also a weight capacity, which I thought would be a problem since I'm a hoarder. You know, I already said it, I pick up everything, but it really wasn't an issue. I might have hit the limit maybe twice my whole playthrough, which makes you walk super slow, but you just simply salvage some stuff, enough for you to be able to walk properly and find a vending machine to get rid of your stuff. Another form of upgrades are the perks that give you more health or attract more enemies, increase weight capacity, that sort of stuff, which are okay, whatever, is like another extra little bonus. But what I found to be really cool were the flaws, where if you fight certain creatures or get damaged by a specific form of effect like corrosion or shock or whatever, a message pops up offering a flaw, where for the price of lowering a couple stats, you can gain an extra perk. I rarely did it, except a couple times, but I did think about it every time. It was very enticing. Another thing I found to be really cool was a sneak hologram. This is where you find an ID of someone who's allowed in a restricted area and you're able to disguise yourself as them while in that area. But anything you do drains its energy. So when the bar drains, you will have guards or bots looking for you and interrogating you, where these dumbasses will usually let you off the hook very easily. You can make anything up and they believe you, but you can only do this a couple times before they really start to catch on. I thought that was a fun idea. I liked it. It added a little something. And while I'm on the topic of things I like, let's get into the companions. These are characters that join your crew that you can take on missions to provide combat support. They have their own particular set of skills. They increase your carrying capabilities, which is a huge deal, especially if you're a hoarder. And your actions and choices during the game influence their behavior. They can even jump in on conversations you're having, helping you out that way, or steering the outcome in a different direction. They also have special companion abilities that they can perform while in combat, which I also forgot I could do, but they're really cool and they're each very unique. You can equip them with any item you want, also slap some armor and headgear on them as well, which also goes back to my point of the design of these items and why I really didn't like them, because I found that the companion's default design look was so interesting and cool, really representing each character. So I felt like I was ruining their look for safety reasons, you know, slapping armor and stuff on them so they don't die, but they kind of look a bit stupid. Each one of them offers you a companion mission, which would send you off a wild goose chase for most of them, traveling to different planets, collecting, finding, investigating, rescuing, killing, turning on, turning off, destroying, saving, and recovering specific things important to their character. You can have 2 of them with you at a time, and there's a total of 6 of them. You can have them all, but because you can actually fire them at any point and tell them to get lost, I thought that would have opened a slot for others to come in. But no, it's always the same 6. And they also feel very unique. You can get to know them and they give you their backstory, and it's very extensive work. It's not just like 6 strangers that just so happen to come on your ship. It is that, but if you want, you can get to know them a bit better. You can also just decide to ride solo and have no one with you. Again, the freedom that's allowed in this game is really refreshing. The one negative thing most people will agree about this game is its short playtime. And I also do agree, especially for this type of game. It feels very short. You can fully 100% complete the game in around 40 hours, which isn't bad, but if you just stick to the story missions, you can be done within 14. Now, I'm usually all for games not having to be 100 hours long to enjoy them, but I actually would have minded if this game was actually twice as long. It just simply makes sense. Also because the final mission just kind of shows up and it feels a bit abrupt. And honestly, the mission itself is quite underwhelming. You're on a rescue mission to save Dr. Wells from this super maximum security prison. They spend 10 minutes telling you how impossible it is to get in and even more impossible to get out. So as you're moving through its levels, faction leaders you've helped along the way will show up and create a distraction as you make your way to find this random guy you just saw for the first time just before you started the mission. He's out here making threats, like trying to portray himself as the bad guy, but the whole time there really isn't like a bad guy face throughout the game. He threatens you with this monster thing that you kill very easily, and then you're given a choice and you make the choice and the game is over. You get the long outro explanation to the conclusion of every single character's story. I like that part, but the gameplay itself at the very end, I just found it to be kind of sloppy and underwhelming, like I said. Especially pace-wise, it's really weird. Like while I was playing, I felt like I was 3/4 of the way through of the game, and then just this final mission just kind of pops up. It definitely feels like we could have had way more side missions and even way more main missions. I guess that's where the DLC comes in. Peril on Gorgon and Murder on Eridanos. Is that how you say it? Eridanos? Eridanos? I don't know. These were received pretty well for feeling like true expansions to the game. So let's just say that each one of them are another 10 hours of content. So we are looking at a total of 60 plus hours altogether, which is not bad, but again, that's 45 hours of just side stuff. I just simply wish there was more story missions. But even with that, it does offer a ton of replayability with its freedom and always dangling the what if I did this differently in front of you. There are 3 main endings and a ton of different character outcomes for each character, as they show you what was of each character at the very end. Of course, coming from the creators of Fallout, there is a ton of Fallout DNA. The way the camera pulls in during dialogue, the way the branching dialogue works, the way capacity, the weapons, and the skill system, all that feels like Fallout. The more you play this game, you will find yourself thinking, oh, just like in Fallout. But what I found to be very interesting is that unlike many spiritual successors, the Outer World doesn't feel like it's actually trying to compete or outdo Fallout in any way. It's simply trying to deliver a different experience with the same systems and giving you the freedom to explore and mess around with those systems for you to do with them as you please. I think the Outer Worlds is a pretty cool game. The aesthetic is very cool. The different ways that you're allowed to play are very interesting and very cool. Of course, the game is very entertaining. So anyone who might be remotely curious about this game and is into these type of games will definitely enjoy their time. But those were my thoughts on the Outer Worlds. Let me know yours down in the comments. Did you play it back then? Have you playing it recently? Are you preparing yourself for the second game? Any and all the Outer Worlds thoughts, let me know down in the comments. When you're down there, if you can like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. You can also treat me like an NPC and tell me to f*** off. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to always and forever, you do you.